The end justifies the means, and in reference to the massive evil that is genetic engineering, the future of the human race seems bleak. Some may question if these current means are so horrible and dangerous that there will even be an end to justify it, or if the end may just be the start to a new cycle of endlessly worse actions that lead to the eventual downfall of humanity. As of late, every major news source prints off one-off studies that cite genetic engineering as the end of the very world. That is, at least, the way it seems. But the problem with giving in to the American nature of distrust is that it is, in nearly every instance, outright slander on the best prospect for the future of consumers. Despite the numerous findings that support the validity of the claims made by those that engineer the crops and other organisms, groups of people against genetically engineered organisms are rising up like a plague determined to wipe out one of the few chances humanity has at feeding the estimated 7.6 billion people that cover the earth. Dissenters of GMOs may reel in shock to be likened to a plague and defensively ask what good could come from a way of playing God that causes cancer and genetic drift. Luckily for humanity, the good it causes is widely documented in research. Genetic engineering leads to the advancing crop technology contributing to research for the future and, possibly, most importantly, saving human lives. The most common and well-known form of genetic engineering is creating new crop with nuanced features that are impossible to find in nature. Most of the time, the average person, or even the experienced farmer, cannot tell the difference in these crops compared to their natural counterparts. Most times, the only real difference is in their chemical makeup. However, being the most well-known, these GMOs face the biggest resistance, with dozens of countries outright banning the cultivation of these crops. This piques intrigue among most, and many ask what devilish horrors are being created in the secret laboratories of those dastardly evil companies like Monsanto and DuPont. Luckily, the only hidden factor is the specific genetic code for these special crops. One such crop is golden rice, which has been engineered to contain genes necessary to make up the biochemical pathway for provitamin A production. This revolutionary technique in gene control comes with benefits, such as providing the hundreds of thousands that go blind from vitamin A deficiency with the means to counter the horrible effects of malnutrition in second and third world countries. Some may still argue that these genetically engineered crops cause insanely dangerous issues to livestock, which seems like an epidemic of horrific proportions given that of the GMO crops in the United States, 98% of soy and 79.5% of corn goes directly into feeding animals. As the Seralini study clearly evidences, both GM maize, NK603, and Roundup caused serious kidney and liver damage and development of tumors. This is a widely sourced paper on how horrific GMOs are for nature. Sadly, this research has been disproven and retracted, mainly due to the fact that the mice used for the study are prone to developing tumors after 2 years of life, which was, coincidentally, the length of the research. Another flaw of the design of the experiment is that it fed the mice a herbicidal poison that is washed from the plants thoroughly before they are safe to feed to living organisms, much like with naturally occurring plants. With many internet sources spouting what seems to be fact about the danger of consuming a food that contains genetically engineered ingredients, it becomes very easy to give in to fear tactics used by these websites. As one website states, in the absence of credible independent long-term feeding studies, the safety of GMOs is unknown, which leaves those who read this statement to wonder in horrible concern what the possible effects can possibly end up being. Luckily, the answer is, and has always been, right there for the consumer to see. If so many GMOs are consumed by the billions of livestock across the world, GMOs would have already caused one of the many diseases they are allegedly claimed to cultivate. The fact that there have been no notable change in the health of livestock that would lead to the outright ban of GMOs in the last 40 years means that it is unlikely GMOs will ever cause their alleged atrocities. If genetically modified corn is safe enough to still be used for 1 billion cows and 19 billion chickens, then it must be safe enough to be used for 7.6 billion humans. Genetic engineering is not a one-trick pony, however, and can be used for more than just creating impossible crops. Genetic research can be used to solve many problems that plague the world. Light pollution is an obvious waste of energy, and yet street lighting uses about 143 billion kilowatts for lighting, equal to about 11% of total commercial sector electricity consumption. And there's a way to combat this colossal misuse of electricity. Many researchers are looking to bioluminescence to light the streets of the world. They are not just stringing glowing jellyfish together. Instead, they take the genes that bioluminescent bacteria and the iconic firefly use to glow and place them into plants, such as trees and vines, that could one day reduce the need for using electricity to light the streets. After all, with fossil fuels becoming scarce, It is becoming ever important to find alternative light sources that fight the waste of billions of kilowatts of electricity and in turn the waste of a non-renewable resource. The genetically engineered organisms that may light tomorrow's streets will be totally free and require no fossil fuel. But these advancements are not often brought to light. The problem remains that there is no way to rebuild the supply of fossil fuels, until now, that is. Scientists have developed a method to make bacteria produce diesel on command. The diesel, produced by strains of E. coli bacteria, are almost identical to the conventional diesel fuel. This new crude oil producing strain of bacteria can one day replace dangerous oil drilling sites, or even be placed directly into cars to completely remove big oil companies as the middleman. On the subject of genetically engineered bacteria, it is very common to worry about the danger of trash accumulation. The landfills have been filled and humanity is running out of places to put indecomposable trash. No solutions have seemed to make sense. However, laboratories have been able to engineer bacteria that can biodegrade plastic. This new bacteria can clear up landfills and make the world a cleaner place. While it may seem inhumane, there is also genetic testing done on animals, used to research cures for human diseases. Cats are implanted with a genetic propensity to have the HIV virus, with bioluminescence being the physical marker, paired with the expression of the HIV gene. These cats are helping to save the next 35 million people from dying as a result of AIDS. Humanitarian leaders may ask if it is worth it to breed cats to die to save human lives. But the human body can be sold for $46 million, and the most expensive cats can be bought for $1,200. Statistically, if 37,500 cats have to die to save one human life, it will have been worth the effort. Despite constant bombardment from unsound claims, genetic engineering is continuing full steam ahead. Whether it be creating crops to feed all nations, providing groundbreaking research for the future, or saving the lives of thousands of people, genetic engineering seems to be the way to engineer the future. To some it may seem inhumane, immoral, or unnatural. However, 50 years ago, the technology of today would have made it seem like humanity had made a deal with the devil to perform impossible operations. All groundbreaking, earth-shattering research is met with opposition. As long as genetic engineering continues going full steam ahead, all those on board might just be carried into the future of prosperity where anything is possible, even the cure to death.